The birth of a legend, Temujin to Genghis Khan. In the vast, unforgiving steppes of Central Asia, where winters bite like wolves and summers crack the earth, a boy named Temujin was born around 1162. He was not born into power, but into survival. His father, a tribal chieftain, was poisoned by rivals when Temujin was still a child. Left to die by his own tribe, Temujin's family was cast into the wild, scavenging for food and battling for life. From this crucible of hardship emerged one of history's most formidable conquerors, Genghis Khan. Temujin united the fractious Mongol tribes through a mix of diplomacy, alliances, and brutal warfare. He rewarded loyalty and merit, promoted commoners into positions of power, and created a code of laws known as the Yasa to unify his people. By 1206, he had been declared Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. His ambition knew no bounds. What began as a campaign to unify the steppe quickly evolved into a quest to dominate the known world. This is the brutal rise and fall of the Mongol Empire, a tale of blood, power, and legacy. The making of the Mongol war machine. The Mongols weren't just warriors, they were a viral force of nature. Their army, built on speed, coordination, and adaptability, moved like a shadow across continents. Each warrior was trained from childhood, skilled in horseback riding, archery, and survival. Communication between units was seamless, thanks to an intricate system of relay stations and signal flags. This network allowed orders to travel hundreds of miles in a single day. Their strategy was both psychological and tactical. The Mongols used feigned retreats to lure enemies into traps, encircled cities, and used captured engineers to build siege weapons. They employed spies and scouts to gather intelligence, ensuring that no campaign was launched blindly. Genghis Khan's first major conquest was the Xia kingdom in northwestern China. Next, he targeted the mighty Jin Dynasty. These victories showcased not just military might, but psychological warfare. The Mongols were infamous for their brutality. Cities that resisted were annihilated. Their reputation spread faster than their armies, often causing cities to surrender without a fight. In 1219, Genghis turned west toward the Khwarezmian Empire, enraged by the execution of his trade emissaries. What followed was one of the most devastating campaigns in history. The Mongols razed cities like Bukhara and Samarkand, leaving a trail of fire and bone. The siege of Nishapur became a symbol of Mongol ferocity. After the death of a Mongol commander, possibly Genghis's son-in-law, at the hands of Nishapur defenders, the city was obliterated. Some accounts claim that over 100,000 people were slaughtered. Fire and fury, the expansion continues. After Genghis Khan's death in 1227, his empire did not fracture, it expanded. His sons and grandsons, including the notorious Hulagu and the brilliant Kublai Khan, continued his legacy with ambition and unmatched ruthlessness. Subutai, Genghis's most trusted general, was a military genius who led campaigns across Eastern Europe. He orchestrated the infamous Battle of Kalka River in 1223, where Mongol forces decimated a coalition of Russian princes and their Kipchak allies. Later, Subutai and Batu Khan led a devastating invasion into Europe, crushing the Hungarians at the Battle of Mohi in 1241. The Mongols were poised to advance further when news of the Great Khan's death forced their retreat. Hulagu Khan, another grandson of Genghis, led the destruction of the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad in 1258, a cultural and scientific heart of the Islamic world. The Tigris River is said to have run black with ink from the ruined libraries and red with blood from the slaughter. Kublai Khan, meanwhile, took a different path. He moved to China, established the Yuan Dynasty in 1271, and ruled as an emperor. He embraced aspects of Chinese governance and culture, which made his rule more sustainable in the East. His court in Dadu, modern-day Beijing, became a hub of cultural exchange. He welcomed scholars, traders, and explorers, including the famed Venetian Marco Polo. However, not all campaigns were victorious. The Mongol attempts to invade Japan in 1274 and 1281 were famously thwarted by typhoons, the divine winds, or kamikaze, that wrecked their fleets. Similar failures occurred in Southeast Asia, where terrain and disease proved formidable enemies. The world under Mongol rule. At its height, the Mongol Empire was the largest contiguous land empire in history, stretching from Korea to Hungary. This vast realm brought about a strange kind of pax mongolica, a Mongol peace, that allowed trade, ideas, and cultures to flourish along the Silk Road. Under Mongol rule, merchants were protected, roads were safe, and communication flowed. The Mongols even used a form of passport system called paisa to ease travel for dignitaries and traders. Paper currency, introduced in China, spread to other regions. Technological and scientific exchanges blossomed. But peace was enforced through fear. Rebellions were met with swift and savage punishment. Cities were leveled to set examples. Entire populations were relocated to serve the empire's needs. Artisans were spared and reassigned, while the rest were often slaughtered. The cracks begin to show, seeds of collapse. The beginning of the end was not a single moment but a series of fractures. As the empire grew, it became harder to govern. The vast lands were divided into khanates: Golden Horde in the northwest, Ilkhanate in Persia, Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, and the Yuan Dynasty in China. While these regions were technically under one empire, they operated increasingly independently. Power struggles between Genghis Khan's descendants led to infighting. Economic strain, rebellion, and cultural differences widened the divides. The loyalty that had once bound the Mongol elite began to fray. The Black Death, which spread along the trade routes the Mongols had revitalized, decimated populations and economies. Ironically, the very connectivity the Mongols had enforced became a conduit for their undoing. The plague killed millions, disrupted commerce, and sparked social unrest across Eurasia. In China, the Yuan dynasty faced rising discontent. Widespread corruption, famine, and floods exacerbated tensions. The Red Turban Rebellion, a grassroots movement, grew into a full-scale revolution. In 1368, the Ming dynasty seized power, forcing the Mongols back to the steppes. In Persia, the Ilkhanate fragmented into warring states by the mid-14th century. Local rulers vied for control, and the centralized authority crumbled. The Chagatai Khanate similarly split into east and west, losing coherence and power. The Golden Horde, once a fearsome power in Russia and Eastern Europe, began to falter as regional powers like the Grand Duchy of Moscow grew stronger. By the 15th century, it had splintered into smaller khanates, eventually falling to internal divisions and external conquest. Legacy of the Horde. Though the Mongol Empire dissolved, its impact echoed through the centuries. It reshaped the map, established new trade networks, and altered the course of civilizations. The devastation they wrought still haunts historical memory, but so does their role in bridging East and West. Cultural diffusion, technological exchange, and diplomatic relations all flourished under Mongol rule. Modern historians debate whether the Mongols were bloodthirsty barbarians or brilliant unifiers. The truth, as always, lies somewhere in between. They were destroyers and builders, tyrants and visionaries. Genghis Khan once said, "It is not sufficient that I succeed, others must fail." In this ethos, the story of the Mongol Empire is written in fire, blood, and an enduring legacy that continues to fascinate the world. From a boy cast out into the wilderness to an emperor whose shadow stretched across continents, the saga of the Mongol Empire is one of the most viral and violent epics in history. Don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and hit that subscribe button to discover the Macedonian Empire.